I pressed the button and the button is supposed to unmute me. I hate it when that happens. It's really annoying. So, whatever. Anyway, I was super boisterous and I had a lot of stuff to say, and it's all gone now. Well, anyway, I was just saying, work was long. I'm glad to be painting, and we're going to be doing some stuff for my Age of Sigmar army. So I'm doing what is called Path to Glory. So it is a campaign. And essentially campaigns are a way for you to play more of a story. So Age of Sigmar is a fantasy tabletop war game. Normally it's just two armies like going to town trying to kill each other. But Path to Glory allows you to slowly build your army over time, gain territories, and basically like kind of mold this area that we're in, depending on how things go. Well, I am playing Soulblight Gravelords, also known colloquially as Spooky Boys, because Spooky Boys are vampire, skeleton, zombies, like all the like classical horror creatures. So for instance, my well, he's way back there, I'm not gonna grab him. He is, what's going on, Tricky? We are doing some fun stuff today. I think it's fun. But anyway, my primary guy is a vampire lord on a zombie dragon. You know what? I'm gonna grab it real quick. Steady. This is my this is my HQ that I'm about to show off. I just finished building and painting him over the weekend. So this is my zombie dragon, or vampire lord on a zombie dragon. So this is my main general for my Age of Sigmar army, or at least for this campaign. Yeah, ooh is right. Let me change scenes here, and then I give you a better look. Like he is like he's bigger than my wet palette. Like he's such a cool big model. I think it turned out really, really cool. So this is the guy that's leading my army, and it's an army filled with little skeleton dudes. Like in comparison, these two, like, appreciate it. Honestly, the wings were super easy because I own an airbrush. But that is my warlord or general in Age of Sigmar. But today I have about some background. If you're not familiar with the Soulblight Gravelords, not only are they spooky boys, but they're a horde army, meaning that they have a lot of dudes. I currently have, in like my main army, like if I were to put together 2,000 points, I have 95 models on the tabletop. And 60 of those are these little skeleton guys, and I only have about 20 of them painted up fully. And so today I'm going to do another 20. So with these, you can already see that some of it's already been painted. So essentially what I did is I base coated them in just pure white. There we go, that's better. And then I used Citadel's Skeleton Horde contrast paint. So it's just normally I don't like using contrast paint or speed paint or whatever, but when I am doing freaking horde, there's a D at the end of that, horde army, means there's a lot of them. Anyway, exactly Tricky. I don't know, they are affectionately known as the Boner Boys, so that actually might be accurate as well. Anyway, but because I have 60 of these guys, I didn't want to go out of my way to like really paint super detailed, and so I'm using metallics, I'm using contrast paints. So hey, when they had flesh, who knows exactly. But normally when I do a lot of models, I tend to do what's known as batch painting. And batch painting just means that when you're painting, you are painting the same thing across all of your models. So for instance, I may paint 20 swords and shields, and then I'll move on to 20 helmets, and then I'll move on to the cloaks, right? But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and paint up one model fully and then move on to the next one like that. I just think it's gonna be a little bit more entertaining. But these guys range in complexity to this guy who's literally just all bones and then sword, helmet, and shield, all the way to this guy who has a nice banner, or even this guy who is my musician, which just gives some extra buffs, where he's got a lot of straps. He's got this really cool trump horn, and then like my warlord has a lot of stuff on him as well. So, or not warlord, but like my captain. So I'm gonna have miniatures that range from like, I'll probably spend 5 minutes on this guy, versus this guy I'll probably spend a good 20 to 30 minutes on because of the banner. So without further ado, let's get started. All of the metallics I'm going to be using are from Vallejo's Game Color 2.0. I am falling in love with these metallic paints. So one of the issues that I've always had with metallic paints, poor coverage, and it's gloopy. So it's thick because the particles that are floating in the paint have to remain suspended. In order to do that, typically the paint has to be a bit thicker than normal. Well, these are like perfectly thin. They give a beautiful finish, and they cover just fantastic. So I'm a huge fan so far of what I used with the Vallejo Game Color 2.0. I've also tried some of their like normal colors, and they're fantastic too. One of those paints where I'm like, I've used a couple now, and I might just go ahead and buy all of the metallics, and potentially just go ahead and buy the entire set, which is like a lot of money. But dude, Vallejo, I have mixed feelings about Vallejo paints. Like I obviously use a lot of the model color stuff, but the model color is really thick. It's a really thick paint, and so I'm not a huge fan of it. But so far, the Game Color 2.0 has been absolutely fantastic. Hashtag not a sponsor. I'm still too small for sponsors. So for all the swords and the metallic stuff, that's the brand that I am using. As you can see, like it's just going on incredibly smooth. The coverage is, again, you can see yourself. There's like, I may need a second coat on that, but I promise you I could probably get away with just the one. So but yeah, so far the metallics, A+. And for the face, I'm gonna do the kind of the body of the shield in silver, and then do the rim, and then this little decorative skull in what is it called? Copper? Yeah, hammered copper, which is this reddish. Well, you can't really see it, that reddish metallic there. This does help that I'm painting over a white undercoat, because white tends to take color a little bit better and require fewer coats with brighter colors. But I have used this over black, and it works just as well. Unfortunately, there's only like one store here locally that sells it. It's a place called Atomic Empire. It's really annoying that there's only one store selling it right now. That store just also happens to be like almost an hour away from where I actually live. So it's not somewhere where I could just pop over and grab a bottle. Now we'll be using... Are they a pain to get online? Yes, because I don't know why, but I can't find them anywhere online. I don't know if it's just because Vallejo doesn't really sell online, or if online vendors haven't gotten them. The only place that I've seen them available is on Atomic Empire's website. And their website is just the worst, if I'm honest. And I don't really know why. Like, it's available, so why aren't more stores picking it up? I think it's because, like, a lot of stores are trying to sell through their original stock of the original Game Color. Because Game Color 2.0 is exactly that. It's a 2.0, so it's the second kind of iteration of Vallejo's Game Color, which ironically was essentially a response to Citadel's color, which those of you who don't know is Games Workshop's paint line. That's what I'm assuming they're doing. I'm not really sure why they're just not available. Like, even on Amazon, I can't find this stuff on Amazon either. You'd think that people on Amazon would be dying to just go ahead and sell it, because a lot of hobby painters want to get in on it. I don't know, maybe it may be a restriction from Vallejo. I just don't know. I absolutely love this hammered copper. It is such a beautiful color. One thing I have to say about this as well is it takes a wash really, really well, because it has a nice glossy finish, and glossy finishes tends to take washes a little bit better. Because the matte paints allow other paint to stick to it a little bit better, which is why a lot of primer is matte. But gloss lets it kind of slide around and, you know, kind of do what it's meant to do, and that is get into the recesses and then wash away from kind of the top parts. Sounds like a business to me. Yeah. So I'm going in for a second coat on the face of the shield, not because it really needs it, but because I did get a little bit of paint, of the copper paint on it. So I'm just going to clean that up real quick. And while I'm at it, might as well go ahead and just give it a nice little once over. Just make sure everything is nice and consistent. Alright, cool. Now I'm going to take Skeleton Horde Contrast Paint, which is the paint that I used for the bone, and I'm going to use that on the horns here, on the top of his helmet. One of the things with contrast paint is it can sometimes be difficult to use, but what I'm doing is I'm kind of pulling it with my brush down towards the bottom to kind of give the bottom of the horn a little bit of a darker look, and then a little bit lighter on the top to kind of give it a little bit more pizzazz. Often when I'm watching people paint, the washes they use can change the end color so drastically. I wonder how you're getting to, I wonder how you get used to knowing what you'll reach at the end point. Yeah, so that's something that's super common. And the answer to that is you just kind of have to know your paint. Like, you kind of have to know your washes and things like that. But one, like, easy trick is thinking, like, one shade above what you want, right? So, for instance, the gold, or not the gold, but the paint I'm using here, that's rather bright for, like, a grimdark style, right? But if you look at other shields that I've in armor that I've done with this same paint with a wash on it, you can see how it darkens it up. So I'm starting brighter than I want my end result to be, knowing that the wash is going to dull it down quite a bit. So that's kind of, I guess, say the key to success when it comes to washes is just knowing how dark you need to take your paints. Whew, and how bright they need to be if you're using a wash, because you could always just learn to paint volumes, which isn't too difficult. It just depends on what you want and how much you want to put into it. So don't hurt yourself there, Stormer. I know I'm throwing paint at myself. It's the worst. Alright, so this is going to be the color of all of their robes. So this kind of dark red is my army's kind of, I guess, a unifying color. So the majority of my army is going to, all their cloaks and stuff like that, robes, capes, whatever, is going to be this dark red, even if the miniature itself doesn't have any, well, not necessarily the miniature itself, but like if the rest of the miniature doesn't have any like red in it, I'll do something like a cape or a robe or something just to kind of unify everything. Because I am playing the Legion of Blood for the Soulblight Great Lords. So I figured a red color scheme would probably fit. Go. This is kind of the place where I need to be really careful because there's a lot of like pieces of tattered cloth that kind of intersects with some of the bone. So I just need to be careful that I'm not accidentally painting pieces of bone red that should be pieces of cloth, and vice versa. How are you enjoying Sigmar more, or just appreciating something a little different in comparison to 30K? So one of the things I like about Age of Sigmar is the actual rule set itself is a lot more simple. It's more simplistic than 30K. So I like it for that because I can think more about what's going on the table versus trying to figure out what rule I need to remember. It's one of the reasons why I've kind of stopped playing 40K in lieu of 30K is while 30K is a lot more complex, to me, there's less I have to think about strategy because I'm just playing to have fun versus 40K's at least the kind of community for 40K that's here local to me is a lot more competitive, and I just want to play to have fun and play some open play and not really worry about rules or getting them right or anything like that. Kind of like it's kind of the same with me in D&D. Like I'm not like I know the rules, but I'm not going to be a rules lawyer, and I don't like people who are rules lawyers because we're all there to have fun, not to study a rule book, right? So same thing with with 30K and 40K, whenever you're in like a competitive atmosphere, oftentimes fun comes second to winning. That's not really the environment that I want to be in. And so 30K for me, even though it's a little bit more complicated than 40K, is less competitive. And Age of Sigmar is more competitive than 30K, but the rule set is much, much more simple. Obviously, with any kind of Games Workshop game, there are rules bloats sometimes. That's just something you have to deal with a game that's constantly evolving and trying to remain competitive. But in my opinion right now, it's pretty much perfect for me. And then this campaign has been a really good chance for me to learn it. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it was my long-winded way of saying, yes, I enjoy Sigmar. But for a different reason than I like 30K. It's kind of like asking who your favorite child is. Like, I like both of them quite a bit, just for different reasons. Oh, speaking of 40K, where's that bad boy? I did a custom model. So one of the things that my 30K community does every so often is we'll do hobby challenges. And those hobby challenges are basically like come up with a model, rules and lore for a custom model. I play Iron Warriors, who are siege experts, and I wanted to do one of these challenges. So it was a Dreadnought challenge. You had to do a custom Dreadnought. So I did a custom Breacher Redemptor Dreadnought. So he's got a massive Graviton hammer to destroy his enemy's walls. A really cool shield that improves his save by 1, and then just the rest of it's just a normal Contemptor. But I think he's super cool, and I cannot wait to use him on the tabletop. It's gonna be one of those things where we really only use it in-house, so we're not gonna use it at like narrative events or anything like that. It'll just be like, hey, me and this other guy are meeting up for a game or two. Do you want to let me use this custom dread? Or just as a display piece, because I think he looks cool enough to be a display piece. But then I'm kind of biased. That's not that. Had. Oh well, it's over there, so I'll have to do that later. So I was gonna do some stuff behind his shield. I have a specific color that I want to use for all the back of my shield. But oh well. Yeah, exactly. What are you excited about? Are you excited about the D&D movie? I'm very excited. Because evidently, according to some interviews, the actors and actresses who play in the D&D movie actually played their characters in a actual tabletop D&D campaign before they played their characters in the movie. So they kind of got to know their characters and the quirks of their characters and added something to their characters in this D&D game. Yeah, it's comes out on the 31st. And I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait to see it. For more than just the fact that it's a D&D movie, but that's, the big thing. Because I am also going to go see it with friends. Which that's D&D. It's all about the friends we made along the way. Ish. Sometimes it's just about D&D. Like, I joined a D&D group that I really didn't fit in well with. Just not my kind of crowd. As far as like, they were good people. I just didn't really fit in with them. But I kept playing and was bored the entire time. just because I wanted to play D&D because I hadn't played in so long. I left that group probably about a year ago or so. The only thing I regret about it is it was a live game. And live games are always more fun than digital games, in my opinion. And so it was a loss of opportunity to play in a live game, but again, I didn't really fit in with them, so I wasn't really having a ton of fun. But alright, so I'm just going to take a 50-50 mix of my original color and my highlight color, and I'm just going to start picking out all my volumes on the clothes here. And this will be my mid-tone. As you can tell, it's a lot darker. If this is my mid-tone, it's going to be a lot darker than the reds I normally do. For those of you who come stop by and watch. Normally I'll use that as my mid-tone, like that color there, but we're kind of cutting that down, making it a little bit darker to kind of match the vibe of the Soul Blight Gravelords. Because it is definitely a vibe for sure. Okay. And our highlight pass. Got dog hair on my paintbrush. Get there. That's what I get for having a dog. Dog hair. I wish my dog would actually stay in here during stream, but now is about the time where he starts to kind of settle down and kind of wants to go to bed. But he also tries to wake me up at like 7 a.m. so he better be going to bed early if he's going to try that. I do say tries to wake me up at 7 a.m. because he does not succeed. I'm way too stubborn to be to be getting up at 7 a.m. or to let him get me up at 7 a.m. Right, there we go. So that's his red robe. You know what? I really want to actually finish this model, so let me grab that paint real quick. I should have had it with me, but you know. Where are you at? There we go. Excuse my messy room here. But we're going to use some speed paint, which is very similar to contrast paint, except it's made by the Army Painter. This is, in reality, this is the only paint made by Army Painter that I actually like. So for instance, that was the paint that I used on the wood on this guy's shield. So it's really, really nice color. And since it's pretty close to contrast paint, all I have to do in reality is just paint one coat on whatever I'm doing, and that's it. So it's a nice little shortcut that I can take to get a decent result. And that's in reality, that's what Army painting is for me. It's like, how can I get the absolute best possible result for the least amount of work? Because if I'm going to be painting, like I mentioned this earlier, Calico, I don't know if you're here when I said it, but I've got 95 models in this army, which is the largest army I've ever played. So if I'm going to be playing and putting 95 models on the tabletop, then I need to figure out how to make my army look absolutely baller without spending my entire lifetime painting it up. So for me, that is finding and utilizing shortcuts. That's also a technique known as speed painting. Speed painting would be like finishing a single model in, you know, like 20-30 minutes. Versus normally, and y'all have seen this, like I spend, for one of my display models, I'm spending, you know, 100 hours, you know, getting everything right. You can see how, man, that wash just makes that shield pop so nicely. This is probably my favorite part of any like simple, quick paint job, and that is the wash, because washes are like that. There's a reason why a lot of people call washes liquid talent, because a wash will take a model where you basically did like a paint by the numbers thing and make it look so much better, because it makes all the details of the model pop, instead of you doing so manually, which again, you guys know I do manually all the time, but again, it's hard to justify doing that with 100 models on the table. All right, and then I'm calling that guy finished. So that was, what would that be? That would be about 30 minutes for that model. And then I'll do all the basing and stuff later, but I'm going to do basically, I've got some Vallejo texture paste that I'm going to be using. So I'll go ahead and put them here so that they're still kind of on camera, so we can kind of keep track of how many models we finished tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and do the really simple guy that I was showing y'all earlier, with the guy who just has his weapons but nothing else. So go ahead and start with the speed paint. That way I can let that dry while I move on to a different spot. Speed paint takes a little bit longer to dry versus like a contrast paint. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other shield, where the center of this is going to be silver, while the banding and the little center knob, I can't remember, I know it has a formal name and I can't think of what it's called right now, will be copper. I'm thinking about, because a lot of these swords have these like large pits in them, thinking about doing some rust effect on some of this, but the way I do rust is a little bit aggressive in that it requires dry brushing, and these models are very, very thin plastic. They're skeletons, right? So I'm not sure that they would hold up to the rigors of dry brushing. So I'm thinking I'm just going to leave it at a dark wash for now. I may come back and do, if I find out a less aggressive rust technique, then I'll come back and do that, but currently I don't want to destroy my models because I want them to look rusty. Also, this is completely random, but I was thinking about earlier today. I really need to start uploading all my stuff to YouTube again. The reason I was thinking about that is I realized I was going to be a little bit late, and I thought about just moving the official time. So basically, stuff at work is getting super busy, so I can't really prep like I used to for stream. because I'm gonna have to do, basically concentrate on work all the way up to the point where I get off, versus being able to like open some programs in the background and let those run until countdown ends. And so because of that, I'm not gonna be able to just like 9 o'clock hits, I clock out of work and immediately start stream. And so what I think I'm gonna do instead is move the time to 9:15. That gives me a little bit of extra time to start getting everything ready to stream. But anyway, I say that because the whole reason I started at 9, because it used to be 9:30 if y'all remember. The reason I started at 9 is because my parents had followed me and were watching. And they go to bed fairly early. And so starting at 9:30, they weren't ever able to show up, so I moved it back to 9. But because I'm not able to really prep, I won't be able to really start at 9 anymore. And so I know my mom subscribes to me on YouTube, and she watches, the streams and even shares it with some people on YouTube. And so I'm like, all right, well, if they're not gonna be able to watch live, then let's go ahead and start uploading stuff on YouTube again. But if that's something that y'all would be interested in, or maybe even expanding it to like doing small tutorials. I know I said that's not something I wanted to do, and the reasoning behind that was I didn't really want this to be like a quote-unquote YouTube career. I just wanted to do it for fun. I didn't really want it to do anything super serious with it, but that's something that anyone is interested in, let me know, and I'll see what I can make happen. All right, I'm going to use some speed paint on his little cheek guards because they are more leather than they are metallic. At least they look like it to me. Yeah, for sure, because like, VODs of course get removed after so long. So that was part of it, is like, I know some people aren't able to watch the stream live, and have expressed a desire to watch it afterwards. Most of those people are people who aren't necessarily interested in painting, just want to support me personally, which I'm very thankful for. I just don't know how many people who are interested in me to the point where they would watch that they would watch me stream, but would rather do it live for the interaction part of it, versus people who watch because they're interested in the content but don't necessarily want that kind of thing. So I try to catch up on your D&D streams by watching VOD, but Twitch isn't great for it. Yeah. Funny you mentioned that. That is actually something that we used to upload them on YouTube all the time. But when Matt stopped DMing and I was asked to take over the DM position thing, say position as if it's a job, it's not, and it moved to my channel. Like, they used to put all of it on our Trials of Imagination YouTube, but that hasn't really been done, because SJ was the one that was uploading them, and she had a baby recently, so she hasn't been able to upload anything to the YouTube or any of our socials like she used to, which is absolutely 100% understandable, because family and baby come first, D&D comes second. But hopefully we'll start getting that back on track and start uploading it to our TOI YouTube again. But that's typically where that content goes, because it's not necessarily quote-unquote my content, because I'm kind of I'm the newest member of TOI. So, they had an established audience, an established YouTube, an established Discord and all that before I came along. So I don't really want to take their content or the group's content that's on happens to be on my channel, and put it in a place that isn't already established and people know about it, if that makes sense. So that's why I haven't uploaded any TOI stuff on my YouTube page. Not because I don't want to, well, I should say, not because I don't have the opportunity or the ability to do so. I just don't want to because I feel like it's taking away from the group's YouTube and social media. All right, so that is 10 minutes on this guy because I had like 3 things to do on it. All right, set that guy aside. We'll just pick up the next boy. Now this guy is 99% done before stream. Really all I need to do is his clothes. So we'll just go ahead, knock that out real quick. Shouldn't take too long. The baby won't remember anything from right now. That is true, yes. But baby still comes before D&D. When I say because of the baby, I mean she literally left TOI temporarily to go have the baby. So I'm not saying like she left because the baby was being weird. Like she literally left TOI for a couple months and came back with a baby. Oh, that's right. I was on. That's right. Yeah. I forgot you had followed TOI at that point. I couldn't remember if you had followed it after I started streaming it or before. Mostly because I have the memory of a demented goldfish. Yeah, that's roughly about the time I started hanging out. Gotcha. Oh, I did forget something on one of those other miniatures. I'll have to, because the belt, I meant to put a wash on the belt to darken it a little bit and to separate it from the rest of the cloth. And I forgot to do that. I'll do it in just a second. Also, sorry about not streaming last week. So the paper that I use on my wet palette, I ran out. I had to order some more and it didn't come until late last week. So literally no reason for me not to stream except for the fact that I forgot to order more supplies. Appreciate it. I just know the last time I went without streaming for an entire week, it was because I was considering quitting, and I just want to make sure y'all knew that is not the case. Not this time. Well, considering quitting is probably a strong word. I was considering whether or not this was something that I wanted to still do long term. ahead and start highlighting our volumes here. Well, I appreciate your streams and they help me wind down and relax. Well, I appreciate your appreciation. I really do. Because, you know, like, this is kind of, I guess you could say, my second attempt at streaming. My first attempt was doing video games, and it got to the point where I felt almost obligated to stream because I wanted to kind of make it a thing. I wanted to grow my stream. I wanted to do YouTube and all this kind of stuff. And so I realized pretty quickly that that wasn't really something that I could do personally, because once it became about the quote-unquote career path, which is exactly what it was, then I lose interest in the things that I love, right? So if I stream games, which I did, I lost interest in gaming almost completely, to where I went from like gaming for like 2 to 3 hours a day to maybe a half hour. Well, I would say not necessarily that. I would say it went from about 2 to 3 hours a day to 2 or 3 hours a week. So it just kind of hit me really hard because it was like forcing myself to do something that I used to enjoy versus just being able to enjoy it and then kind of turning into a job. And that's what I want to avoid with this stream. I just want to come hang out with some cool people, paint some cool minis, and that's it. And so I have to be very, very careful. Not, again, I think I kind of mentioned this the last time I streamed. Not because of y'all. I don't ever feel pressured from y'all to continue streaming. But because, like, I just want to be very, very careful that I don't lose my passion for painting because I want the stream to be something that it's not, right? So I just have to be cautious, if that makes sense. We are. Let's see, which one do I want to do next? Let's go ahead and finish this guy here, who is my champion. Where did that? Just dropped my painting handle. Your passion was one of the first things that got me hooked. I stumbled in and you were talking a great deal about some D&D stuff. At the time I had even less knowledge than I do now. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing, and first of all, I really appreciate that. Like, you know, I don't ever want to lose that passion, right? Because I think for me, that passion is who I am, right? So my passion for D&D, my passion for Warhammer, my passion for miniature painting, like that's part of who I am right now. And if that passion is in danger because my ADHD won't let me have a hobby and make money at the same time, then, you know, I'm going to prioritize my passion. And so that's kind of why I just have to be really careful this doesn't become something that I feel obligated to do, not because I don't want to do it, but because if I do feel obligated, that's the moment I start losing passion for it. And the stream would probably die pretty quickly after that. Even if I didn't just stop streaming altogether, you would probably be able to tell that I'm just not feeling it, right? But so again, I just got to be careful. And so that the last time I took a couple weeks off, that's kind of where I was at. I just need to take some time off, make sure that the obligations that I feel are self-inflicted, and that I know that I can step away at any point without, not without consequence, because I think that's consequence is the wrong word, but that I can step away and take a break when I need to, without having to worry about this, stress that comes from like social media, because that's a thing. I don't know if y'all know this. I'm sure a lot of you do, especially those of you who watch streamers. Like, streaming is probably one of the most stressful jobs out there. Well, social media altogether, because your entire life is dependent upon people liking you. And so for a lot of people who are trying to get into YouTube and streaming as a career path, their living depends on people liking them, which is not what we were designed for, right? We as creatures were not designed to be in a situation where our entire life revolves around whether or not somebody likes content that we do, right? And so for a lot of people, they'll end up having like mental breakdowns because of the stress of trying to get people to like them. And then the slow realization that people don't like necessarily you. If you're a YouTuber, they may like your persona or your content, but not necessarily you. And that's a hard pill to swallow for some people. And again, there's so much that goes into why I'm trying to be very careful with what I stream, how I stream. Like, I always try to be the real me. That way, if people do follow me, I know that I'm not leading them into a false sense of who I am or what I am. Yeah, there's a lot there. A lot more than I have time. I'm sure there, now that I kind of blast YouTube as a career, there's probably a YouTube video on it. Yeah, I had a bit of a meltdown over social media. Got rid of it all because of it. Yeah, it happens a lot. Like, for a while there, I remember that there were psychologists and psychiatrists who specialized in social media, like, hurt people who were, social media as a career, and kind of got, like, had mental breakdowns because of it. So every so often, I'm just going to take a break and be like, you know what? This isn't all there is in life. I'll go touch some grass, spend time with my dog, relax, and then come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. I'll do that every so often, I think. Ironically, though, I will say this. A lot of my closest friends that I have now, I met because of Twitch and social media. So that's ironic. So, like, all the people who kind of helped me through some of the struggles that I have with social media are they themselves people I met on social media. Because a lot of the people that I know here locally around me aren't really social media people, either because they're older or they're just not into, like, the internet, if that makes sense. So having people who know what Twitch is like and can kind of help me through that and then who I can also help through that too, because it's not, you know, stuff like that's not a one-way street. Discord is, I use Twitch and Discord, but Twitch is really the only really talk in maybe one or two chats, mostly lurk. Yeah. Discord I really just use as a forum board to read stuff or have a server with a couple friends I've made over the years. Yeah, that's for the most part what I use Discord for. I don't really have a ton of Discord communities that I'm a part of. And the Discord communities that I am a part of are like local communities. Like obviously I have Trials of Imagination. I have my own. But then outside of that, I don't think I'm a part of any other Twitch. I think I'm part of one other Twitch/YouTube Discord. And it's another painting group. And everything else is like a local group that I'm in. Either for like Age of Sigmar, local gaming groups, local gaming stores, like store Discords. So I don't really use Discord for, you know, anything more than that. Let's get these volumes painted up. One of the things I'm doing is I'm pulling my brush towards the place where I want the most pigment. Because while that's super important when it comes to techniques like glazing, it still matters a little bit when you're just doing layering. Does give you a nice little bit of a transition without too much effort. When I was marketing, there were periods, especially for certain campaigns, that social media just ruled my life. Everyone has this whole dopamine rush from engagement, but when you could start associating that with a dollar sign, I just felt like a slave to it. Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of where I was at with Twitch, because I was like, oh, I need to start making money with Twitch, right? I want this to be a business. I want this to be like my living. And so video games became a means to money versus a means to fun, right? And so, you know, because I was looking at huge streamers and seeing like their following and what they were doing on their pages and things like that. And I was just like, oh, dude, that's what I want to do. And what you really don't realize is the amount of work and effort that goes into that. It's not just, oh, I'm going to have fun with the boys playing, you know, Smash Brothers or whatever. It's a full-time job. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn early on, that it's not really what I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in a social media job. I just wanted to have fun with friends, right? And you can't really have that if you're on Twitch trying to earn a living. I'm sure there are people who do that, but they would be probably the exception rather than the rule. I think he's about done. Alright, so we'll go ahead and set him aside. So we are an hour in and we've gotten 4 done. So we are averaging right at 15 minutes per minute. And we are 1 Dr. Pepper down. No! Alright. Move to this boy here. So averaging 4 an hour, we'll probably get right at 10 done tonight, which is about half of this squad, because this is a reinforced squad of Death Rattle skeletons. Technically, these models are not Death Rattle skeletons. Technically, these models are skeleton warriors from Warhammer Fantasy Battles, which was the precursor to Age of Sigmar. It was what is known as a rank and flank game. I mean, you'd have ranks of people all together, and you would you had rules like outflank, and you could hit them from one side or one corner, and that would give you a certain bonus versus hitting them from the front, and then flanking them from the rear would give you a better bonus than flanking them from the side, things like that. So that would be like a rank and flank style game versus Age of Sigmar, which is more of what you're kind of used to with Warhammer 40k, where it's like a bunch of individual models and they have to be within 1 inch of each other to be within what's known as unit cohesion. So you can't have like one member of your squad across the map, but they don't have to be in like a rank and flank, rank and file kind of situation. So because this guy has a little bit different shield, so his shield is more of a wooden shield. Hey Calico, welcome back. You missed the whole conversation. We were discussing the dangers of social media and Twitch. So I'm hoping you bring the conversation down a little bit, because I could use a not so serious topic. I made a bad decision of transferring downtown. I missed the bus I needed, so I had to wait an extra 15 minutes for the next. It's not safe when having earphones in downtown. Gotcha. I wish I could relate. The town I live in is pretty safe, but I definitely understand like not feeling safe. In the town I was raised in, my first couple jobs, they were like a quarter mile from home, and so my mom would make me walk home from work. Didn't like it, especially when I worked late shift. But I never felt in danger, so I'm sorry you have to deal with that. But bright side is you're not there, so come hang out and not have to worry about it. Okay, ignore I could have been mugged or stabbed. I'm not ignoring the fact that you could have been mugged or stabbed. Or are you talking to Tricky? I meant to keep the conversation light. Oh, gotcha. I was like, what are you talking about? Hey, look. Technically, getting mugged or stabbed, there is comedy in that, right? Because I could literally find humor in just the absolute worst things. Not because I think they're actually funny, but because if you laugh at the darkness, then the darkness doesn't win. You want to know how my dark humor is? Or how dark my humor is? I can think of so many responses to that I could give that would be highly inappropriate, but I'll let you tell me how dark your humor is. That's just not right. Like, I figured that's where that was going, but I didn't want to be the one to say it. Holy cow. It was a joke I saw on TikTok. Oh my gosh. TikTok is one of those places where I'm like, I'm glad this exists, but at the same time, why the heck does this exist? Tricky's like, I'm uncomfortable. Did I hear of D4? I'm afraid to ask, what is D4? What make people feel uncomfortable? I do too. It just depends, right? Because like sometimes making people feel uncomfortable is fun, but then sometimes you're like, well, I made the wrong person feel uncomfortable and now I feel bad. Molded by it, forged by it. Wait, you mean the Scottish have a dark history? No, they would never. I never feel bad once it's out there. There's nothing else you can do but move on. True. I mean, that's pretty much all the internet. Once it's out there, it's out there. Which is why I'm saying, Calico, I was going to let you put it out there instead of me, because I am not going to be the one permanently online having said that joke. Because I figured that's where it was going, but I am the wrong kind of person to be telling that kind of joke, you know what I mean? I like Orphan. There's part of YouTube that's called Americans React to Scottish Comedians. It's fun. I'll bet. I like orphan jokes because what are they going to do to their parents? Jesus Christ. That's funny. That's funny. Well, I mean, orphans also can't play baseball because they can't find home. The orphans, no one is safe. Oh no! The orphans! They're broken! Pretty sure that was their parents' fault, but alright. Look, do you know who... All the orphan jokes I know were told to me by my dad, who was an orphan. So... I think I have a pass on those jokes. Makes you half orphan. Yeah, but I know both my parents, so that doesn't make sense. Figure a half orphan is somebody whose dad left to get milk. Well, if you had to pick one. Fair. A lot less to do as far as volumetric painting on this, so shouldn't take too terribly long. There we go. Alright, so that is zombie number 5 done. Or not zombie, skeleton number 5 done. Okay, so we are hour 20. So let's go ahead and move on to another boy. Go ahead and finish this dude because this dude's kind of half done. So we'll go ahead and finish him. Need more dark wood. By the way, that is the name of the paint. Just throwing that out there. Calico. I've almost completely abandoned the IKEA furniture that was meant to be built. Seems like a tomorrow job. What does North call family photo? Selfie. First of all, Tricky, I'm pretty sure building one piece of IKEA furniture is a full-time job. So yeah, bro, take a break. This idiot decided to fill his new wardrobe with a whole new set of drawers. Nice. I feel like I almost just said one of the most American things I could have possibly thought of, and that is, why don't you just get a dresser instead? Nice. It's like a big puzzle. That's the problem. If I want furniture, I don't want to have to put together a puzzle. I just want furniture built, done. I have a set of IKEA drawers that goes underneath my bed frame. Like, it's literally like my roommate left me his bed frame and those drawers when he moved out. But he never made the drawers, but they're purpose made to go underneath the bed frame that I have. It's sat there for the 3 years that I've been living alone because I do not want to put together those drawers. Get to this spot. This is awkward. I swear, sometimes Games Workshop makes miniatures where I'm just like, you know what, these are just an absolute, are just absolutely the best thing that I've ever painted in my life. It's so much fun. And then there are some where I'm just like, was the person who designed this on drugs? Because it feels like the person who designed this is on drugs or was on drugs. Because like there are details that are on the miniature that just, they make sense why they're there from a model standpoint, but from a painting standpoint, you're like, why the heck is that detail there? Like there are, I've had miniatures where they've had like stuff underneath their robes, and then I put on the robe and you can no longer see that detail because the detail is underneath like another detail. And it's like, so you put that there for no reason because nobody's ever going to see it. Zero sense. But anyway, I rant because I just had a there's a little strap underneath him that I couldn't get to because it was an awkward angle. But it was molded in like that. So it's a molded piece that just doesn't make sense as to why it's there. It didn't need to be there, and it was put at such an awkward place that you can't get to it. Like, why? Why? Make no sense. I noticed that with Angron, so much of his kit seems like you should paint it before you assemble it, and a lot of his body is underneath his armor is slightly visible, for example. Exactly. Now, I know why they do that. I know exactly why they do that, because if you remember the uproar that came with the tank with no bottom, and it was literally a tank that they designed that did not have the bottom fully covered, and there was a massive uproar because this tank didn't have the bottom, and you're just sitting here like, okay, the tank didn't have the bottom. You're never going to see the bottom of the tank when it's on the tabletop. Why do you want a bottom to this tank? So it's like, why do you want Angron to have all these muscles if it's being covered up in armor? Because if it didn't have those muscles, people would complain that it doesn't have muscles. And don't let the tank drive upside down then. Exactly. That tank doesn't need to drive upside down anyway, so why do we care if the part that you can only see from the bottom is only visible from the bottom? It's so ridiculous, man. Dude, I need more Agrax Earthshade, man. This bottle is almost empty. And what's ironic is this bottle of Agrax Earthshade is almost empty from use, not because I dropped it. Which is rare. Like, normally I don't finish a bottle of wash. I drop a bottle of wash. Especially this kind of wash. Because nerds, exactly. Like, look at this. I'm down to, like, my last, like, little bit. I don't know how well y'all can see that, but it's like right there. Well used. Yes, it has been very well used. Agrax Earthshade is one of those, like, there are 4 washes. I would say 4 washes that Games Workshop makes that every painter should use at one point. And that is Agrax Earthshade, Reikland Fleshshade, Nuln Oil, and Seraphim Sepia. Those are like the go-to. Yes. So the big, like I said, the top 4: Agrax Earthshade, Nuln Oil, Seraphim Sepia, Reikland Fleshshade. Those are all like my favorite washes. I have several bottles of them. Like my Reikland Fleshshade. No, that's the wrong one. That's not Reikland Fleshshade. This is. Get out. There it is. Isn't really all that empty, but I have a second bottle of it in my my paint drawer. I have a second bottle of Nuln Oil in my paint drawer, but I don't have a second bottle of my Agrax Earthshade because Agrax Earthshade I really only use for like wood and like wood effects and oh, what is it called? In like basing material. So like on this dragon, the base, this entire base is covered in Agrax Earthshade on top of everything else that I did for it. So yeah, I use it a lot for basing. Ironically, I don't really use washes at all when I'm doing display miniatures. I use them a lot when I'm doing army painting. Because I want the quickest, easiest, best looking product, as we discussed earlier, with as little work as possible. Like, I'll still do what I'm doing now, and that is volumetric stuff. Volumetric painting, but I do want to get these done quickly because the last thing I want to do is spend 2 to 3 hours on each miniature out of the 20 I have in just this one squad. Because you can imagine that'd be 1,000 hours of painting for an army. No, it wouldn't. It'd be 100 hours of painting for an army the size of my the one I have now. So that's just not possible. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fully done. Moving on to number 7 here. And now this one is like fully unpainted, so this one's going to take a little bit longer than those other ones did. So we'll try to get it done so we can move on to and get all 8 that I projected at the beginning done. Hopefully we can get 10 done, but I'm not looking like we will. Go ahead and start with the one thing that I know I'm going to have to do multiple coats on. By the way, I haven't really talked about strategy when it comes to speed painting. So I'm doing the red first because the red I know I'm going to have to do at least 2 coats. Versus the metallics I know I can do in 1 coat. So we do the red. It will dry while I moved on to the metallics. And then when I come back, I'll do the second coat after I'm done the metallics, and then it'll be all ready for, and then I'll do something else like maybe the washes for the metallics because they'll be dry by the time I'm done the second coat for the red, and then finish up the volumetric stuff, and then we'll wash, and then we should be done. Not a lot of wood in the Iron Warriors, that is true. Well, not that kind of wood. But there is leather. And so I use Agrax Earthshade for leather as well. Because Agrax Earthshade is slightly satin in its finish. And so that satin finish kind of gives the illusion of leather, because leather, even if it's worn, isn't matte, right? It's slightly satin in its finish. Little shackle that's at the bottom of his leg here, which is not something that's been on any of the other skeleton boys. Go. And there. Now we'll do his helmet, which is just going to be all standard silver, but then his shield, I'm going to do exactly what I did with the other ones that had those cool banding and designs. The center of the shield will be silver, and all of the banding and designs will be copper. I do think this is going to slow me down a little bit, but I think it's going to be worth it because I really like the way that the two-tone shields look. That's kind of the balance I'm going for here. Like, I want these to be fast, but I still want them to be aesthetically pleasing. So I don't want to just do all metallic silver because that would be the fastest way to do it. but it would look boring. So I do want to give it a little bit of variety, because that gives visual interest and will make your eye believe it looks better than it actually does. Just because it looks interesting. Now, obviously, you can go too far and make something look gaudy, so there is still a balance there. But most people would find a piece of art that has more variety and is not, you know, like just super boring, more interesting than something like this. So all those extra organs jumped up stormtroopers get, there's no way the tech priest would be able to like leave out a wood upgrade package. Exactly. It's nice to have a couple models with the right features in a unit with a little bit of extra time. Exactly. Because like visual interest for me is super important. Like I want the miniatures to look interesting and good, right? Because I don't want, you know, like I could have done this entire army with skeletons that all look the same. But when I assembled these models, I intentionally took time to make sure each individual skeleton was unique in some way. That, you know, like all the same body didn't go with all the same torso, with all the same shield, right? So I mixed them up so that I get that visual variety. Well, I want to match that visual variety with the way that I do the actual paint job as well. Now, obviously, they're going to have different unifying characteristics. Like I mentioned, the red is going to match with the rest of my army. But everything else can be unique per unit, right? So I'm not going to make every single miniature utterly unique. I still want them to have coherency between them, and especially within the same unit. But within the same army, not really. It's not really super important. For instance, him. So this is. I'll show you a couple different things here. Yeah. And then we'll go with this guy. Yeah. All right. So here's 3 other miniatures from my army. We've got a necromancer. You notice he looks completely different, right? But we still have that bit of red to kind of unify it. Then we compare that to this Death Rattle guy, where his entire shield is bronze instead of copper, but he still has the red, but he also has like a splash of blue in there. And then we've got these other skeletons who are my Grave Guard. You notice that his bone color is different than the bone color on these guys. It's a bit lighter. And so each one of these different units has characteristics that make them unique from other units in my same army, but they all have some form of unifying presence within that army to give it coherency, so that it looks like, yes, we may be skeletons in different units, but we are all part of the same army. Which is kind of why whenever you're talking about like going to a tournament for like 40k or something like that, they want you to have all of your miniatures painted to a certain standard, because you don't want your opponent being like, well, what faction are your boys in? It's like, well, I'm Ultramarines. Yeah, but they're all painted green. They want you to have a unified army. Now, for me, it's a more artistic choice. For them, it's more because they're sticklers, and it's, you know, it's a tournament, and tournaments are weird. One guy I knew paint like the captains of each unit to a much higher standard because your eye would be drawn to them and sort of made you think that they were all painted to the same level, but really the other ones were just quick dry brush. Only the Imperium see conformity in monochrome. Yeah, exactly. Well, again, like this. Like, if you look at these two units, by the way. Like, if you look at that guy, you notice it's just metallic with a wash, and then a little bit of volumetric highlights on that. You look at this guy, his face and skin are highlighted. His staff, all the skulls are highlighted, and his robe, every single volume on that robe has you know, a shadow, a mid-tone, a highlight, and then a final highlight, right? And then he's, you know, so like this guy, who is one of my HQs, is much higher standard than my rank and file skeleton boys. Even more so. Where are you at? There you are. If you look at my Vampire Lord, who is my current army leader, she's to an even higher standard, right? All of her skin is highlighted, volumetric highlighting on all of her clothing. You have, you know, transitions that are smooth and go from black to that blue very subtly. Same with the reds. Her skin is nice and smoothed out. The gold is really well covered, and then her base is really fancy with a nice bush and skulls and stuff like that. So all of my miniatures, I do that kind of similar thing to where my HQs are all to an extremely high standard, versus my rank and file, it's how quickly can I get this done. And I did the same thing with my Iron Warriors as well. Like, my Praetors are a much higher standard than my Tactical Marines. She has a very nice brush and teeth. Bush and teeth. Oh, boo. Makes it even worse because she is actually a female. Her name is Anasta. She's actually one of the limited edition Vampire Lords from Games Workshop. I was able to find her on eBay for a decent price. And so... Still been eyeing Inari to get into playing 40k, but you're so intimidated by the painting. Don't be. I mean, so the painting for me is like, you can't really compare yourself to the standard of other people. So like, if you're, hey, I just want to do a base coat and a wash, do a base coat and a wash, dude. As long as you think it looks good, who cares what other people think? Or if you just want to do, hey, I'm just going to do contrast paint. You know what? I don't really use a ton of contrast paint when I'm painting like Space Marines because I have an airbrush, right? I have other ways of making it easy on myself. So, dude, go for it and just make it easy on yourself as much as possible. If that means contrast paint and dry brushing, bro, dude, slap chop all day, right? Just depends on what you want to do with your army. But again, paint bravely. Don't ever let somebody else tell you what your standard should be. Come up with your own standard. And then paint to meet that standard. And then once you've met that standard, paint to beat that standard. And then you'll get better. And don't ever be afraid to try right? Because, like, guess what? This paint is water-based. It's really easy to strip. And it's even easier to paint over, right? So, like, don't ever be worried. Just try out. Have fun with it. And you know what? If it looks terrible, then guess what? Own it. Be like, you know what? This may look terrible, but I did it. Not somebody I asked to do it. Not somebody, you know, this is my work. And if you enjoy it, keep painting, regardless of whether you think it looks good or not. And guess what? You'll get better. Because that's exactly what happened with me. Because the whole point in painting isn't to, you know, to some people like myself, admittedly, is to make a work of art sometimes. But sometimes you paint to slay the gray. You paint so that you don't paint with a gray army, right? And again, if somebody doesn't like the way you painted a unit, well, tell them they can paint it next time. If they don't like it, they can paint it. But a painted army is always better than a gray army, regardless of whether the quality is perfect or not. Because we here, we are not we are not the heavy metal team, and most of us probably will never be in the heavy metal team. So guess what? Let's just paint to have fun. Not worry about whether it's good or not. Are you gray shaming? No, I'm not. But one of the big pushes in tabletop wargaming is having a painted army. And I will tell you from experience that playing a fully painted army feels so much better than playing with a gray army. Not because it's bad to paint with a gray or play with a gray army, but because it's just something about the accomplishment of putting out miniatures on the table that are painted, that you've painted. There's a pride to that, and it feels amazing to do. So I would encourage everybody to slay the gray, not because I think you should be playing with a gray army, but because I know how awesome it feels to put, you know, 30, 40, 50, depending on what army you're playing, miniatures on the tabletop that are fully painted. And for somebody to look at that and go, wow, that's really cool. You painted all that by yourself? And you're like, yep, I did. That's my work. Leftover Chinese food is yummy. I don't know what it is. Leftover Chinese food is always better, right? Reheated Chinese food is like reheated pizza. For some reason, it's just better. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so we're on to number 8. This boy is going to be really fast, so I think we should be able to get to maybe number 9. All I really need to do is the shield and the sword, and that's it. So this shouldn't take too terribly long. Because he's got nothing else. He's just a skelly boy. He doesn't even have a helmet. Exactly. He is a boner boy. You know you have a good wet palette when the paint on top is starting to dry up a little bit, but all the paint underneath that one little dry spot is still nice and workable. But it's back to kind of our conversation, Tricky. That's one of the reasons why I put the whip and gallery in my Discord, not because I want to brag about what I've done, because y'all seen most of what I've done, but it's so that other people could share their work and be encouraged, right? Because it's always better when we're painting together. And what a boy. They actually are, I think I mentioned this, they are colloquially known by two names. Spooky Boys, because this particular faction is like vampires and stuff, but their other nickname is indeed Boner Boys. They are known by both names, and it's hilarious. You like the Boney Bunch? Is that like the Brady Bunch, but a little bit less, you know, family friendly? Marsha. Combined, that makes them Spooky Boner Boys. That is my new army's name. They shall be forever known as the Spooky Boner Boys. So let it be written, so let it be done. I have to give that a second to dry. Okay. Well, I don't think I'll be able to get to all 10 of the ones I wanted to do, but we finished a good chunk of these boys, and I think we will continue with this next time to see if we can't get these done before, because I want to get these done before Saturday. I just realized I actually haven't finished this guy because there's still some details here that I left. Because Saturday I actually have my next campaign battle, and I'd like to have the majority of my units finished by then. It might go bump in the night, more like bump ugly. Leave my Boner Boys alone. They're not ugly. They're just misunderstood. They don't want to kill you because they want to kill you. They want to kill you because they have to want to kill you. They're just misunderstood. Now the big one that the one that I'm kind of most concerned about taking a long time is this guy, because I want to do a little bit of freehand on the flag, and I just don't know what I'm gonna do and how long it's gonna take, but we'll have to see. But I'm concerned about that one taking the most time. Alright, let's go ahead and do the shield here. Oh yeah. Brings it to life. Or brings it to death, I don't know. Same difference. Alright, so that is the last Skelly Boy for tonight. Just gonna paint the handle on the underside here real quick. And that is it. And we'll go ahead and apply a wash to these two parts that I just finished, just to help them match everything else. There we go. If you're a power and lust-filled zombie vampire king or queen, I'm pretty sure you would make sure that your zombie skeletons were hot. True. Put SBB on it. Spooky Boner Boys. Every shield and banner need... Bro! I should do that! Oh, I'm going to do that now, Calico. That is an amazing idea because I think I actually have some transfers that actually have the full alphabet on it, so I could do SBB on every single one of my banners. Because I also have... I also have these banners that are just blank right now. Dude, I should do SBB. They shall forever be known as the Spooky Boner Boys. I love it. All right, this is the way. Well, this is also the way that I will end the stream. Thank you all so much for coming. We managed to burn through 8 of the Spooky Boner Boys. I'll go ahead and get these based up later this week so that they will be all ready for the upcoming campaign that I have. And then Wednesday, we will go ahead and start working on more of these boys. I might go ahead and just start burning through some of them later in the week as well. So they won't all be done on stream, but most of them will be. So, but as always, thank you each and every one of you for coming and hanging out. I love each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Good night.